Hi there. Welcome to KOIN Conversations. My guests today are Steph and Jimmy McDonald. They are co-founders and co-owners of a company in Vancouver called Authenticity50. And they have some interesting products that they have and an interesting story. So we wanted to be able to say welcome and for you guys to share a little bit about your company. Fill us in.
Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you very
it's so
much.
wonderful to be with you guys. Thank you for having us, Lisa.
Yeah, we launched Authenticity in 2015 via Kickstarter with the goal of making the best of bedding and bath products 100% what we call seed to stitch here in the USA. So we do bed sheets, pillows, blankets, towels, and everything from the cotton in the ground, the final stitch is all 100% domestically sourced.
Explain a little bit about if you would. In other words, you started in 2015, you wanted to have products that were made from beginning to end in the US.
Mhm.
Um, how did you get that started?
Yeah, I can take that. So we got married a few years prior to that, and we were looking for high quality goods, buy nice or buy twice to start our married life. We just could not find really high quality bedding made in the United States, kind of like grandma's sheets, what you remember having, that were just so durable, soft, and built to last. And we basically went on a quest to look all over to see if we could find bedding made here. And we realized that just had left our shores back in the 80s for cheaper overseas labor. And so that became a goal of ours to revive that. And
Yeah, and
yeah,
what we found out was that, in the past, cotton would go into a factory at one end and come out as a sheet set basically at the other end, and the factories were vertically integrated. Those didn't exist anymore, but the individual pieces of the supply chain were there. So we found cotton farms, we found yarn spinners, we found weavers, we found finishers, and we found cut and sew, and we were able to put the pieces of the supply chain together all domestically, and did our homework, did our research, found those different manufacturers that we could work with and partners that we could work with, and were able to create our finished bed sheets, which was the first product that we launched with back in 2015.
When you got started, in other words, you had an idea, a concept, you raised some money, through Kickstarter. And did you have backgrounds in design? Did you have backgrounds in manufacturing? I mean, what did you come to the table with?
right. Neither of us had a background in textiles manufacturing, and that tends to be what you see in the industry is families
Mhm.
keeping up the family factory or mill generation after generation. And for us, we did not come from that background at all. And so it was an additional challenge for us to explore that and basically become experts in the field of textiles and American manufacturing. Um,
Yeah, what we brought to the table was an ideology, really, wanting to support domestic manufacturing, support American workers, create products that were environmentally clean and better for the environment. And now we have children, so that's particularly important to us now. Take care of the planet and, give workers and people a living wage, while preserving manufacturing and jobs here in America.
What was your backgrounds, though?
So I worked in finance before. I was in the banking industry, and we lived in Hong Kong and Tokyo together, as well as San Francisco and LA. So we had globetrotted a little bit,
yeah, I,
and we lived in China. And one of the things about seeing China is you see the pollution firsthand. And imagine being in Portland and not being able to see Washington across the Columbia River on a regular basis. That is what it is like there on a daily basis. You don't have more than a few miles of visibility because the air is so polluted. And then Steph
yeah, I
working.
came from a creative background in the entertainment industry, and so bringing that creative aspect of acting, production. So yeah, very different industries for us, but we had that shared goal and belief in making something special here in the United States. And it was really important for us to do something that could support local, support jobs here, and make something that our customers and ourselves could be really proud to own. And 10 years on, we
Mhm.
feel like we're doing a decent job of keeping that going. We just celebrated, actually, I should say this month is our 10-year anniversary. And We actually launched a new product in honor of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you have a sample there?
Yeah, we'd love to show it to you. It's called the Northwest Wool Throw. And we are very proud to share that we made this in collaboration with Pendleton Woolen Mills,
I was
which is
going to say, it
actually,
looks almost like a Pendleton blanket.
it
Yep.
is a Pendleton. And here's the Pendleton tag of authenticity right
Yep.
here, if you guys can see that.
How did that come
Well,
about? In other words, Pendleton is its own brand. It's a big giant. People would think, well, why would they want to meet up and collaborate with you? What was the attraction there?
yeah, it's a great story.
Yeah, well, we've been speaking to them for several years. And like you mentioned, they are a big brand. They sell a lot of their own product, but they're also collaborative. They like to work with smaller brands, help brands that are up and coming with different products. And for us, we presented them with a vision of a blanket that was made 100% in the Pacific Northwest, with the source wool coming from sheep raised on Salvi Island. The blanket is then spun and woven and cut and sewn in the mill in Washougal, which is, right down the street from Portland, 25 minutes from downtown Portland,
10 minutes
and
from our offices. So
10 minutes from our offices and a few minutes from our house. So it was a vision that they liked. The manufacturing team was really excited to be working with this particular style of yarn and wool because they hadn't used it for quite some time, and it runs great on their machines and has been a nice manufacturing process for us and for them because they get to keep their team busy, staffed up all year long.
Take us to a little bit about, from the entrepreneurship part of all this, I think, because that's interesting to a lot of people who have all kinds of ideas for businesses, or it's a very small business. But the fact that I think it's interesting that, you approach this giant, they make essentially the basic product that you're making. Why did they say okay? I mean, how did you even get in the front door, and why did they say okay as opposed to like, thank you, we'll go do that now ourselves?
sure. We have a very unique mission. We have a very unique business model. We have grown the business from Kickstarter to having thousands of customers nationwide. And Pendleton really, I think, appreciated that we had a very unique vision. We wanted us to solely use Pacific Northwest wool and not source it from anywhere else in the world. We wanted to weave it with them right at their mill in Washougal and have it be a truly what we're calling a sheep to stitch
Mhm.
American made product.
But what keeps them
And
from taking that idea and running with it themselves, I guess, is what I'm wondering.
sure. I mean, they have so many different blankets and different colors and different styles. They just loved, I think, what we wanted to give to our customers. And we wanted to share this story with our customers of a truly unique blanket made here. And for Pendleton to be able to support their wool farmers and use local wool was something that really appealed to them. Because a lot of different products like apparel require a different type of wool. But the wool that they were able to provide and find for us and source here locally was actually perfect for this wool blanket. And so,
Yeah, and I
yeah,
think also Pendleton, from like an ideological standpoint, really identified with what we were doing and liked our business and our mission. Um, and I think that was a big part of what kind of drew them to us as well, was that they liked that we were doing only 100% made in America products. We identified a niche that has some overlap with their customer base, but is also somewhat different too. But being so close to them here in the Portland area, I think also helped us because we were able to meet with them on a weekly basis for weeks on end and develop that relationship and that bond. And we know the names of the people cutting and sewing our blanket, and we know the production
Wow.
manager, we know the head of quality control over there now. Um, so I think that helped a lot as well.
and I
How
will
did you
just
get in
add,
the door in the first place?
it was a lot of persistence, I would say. We really had to just continue to uh, reach out and share our vision and our goal with them and not get discouraged if we didn't hear back.
Yeah, and to
It,
answer your question, the answer is I don't really remember how exactly we got in the door. I think we emailed them, or I was able to find a contact through my network of textile industry people, who made, actually, that's probably what it was. And then they made an introduction for us. Because we didn't know any of the family of the Pendleton business or have any prior relationship there. We, same with all our manufacturers, we've just done things the hard way.
Mhm.
Did you just come up with the idea one time thinking like, wow, that's a big company. They make similar products. They might want ours?
So
Like it seems
my
like a high
dad,
reach.
yeah, no, that's a good point. My dad worked in the forestry service many years ago and had Pendleton shirts going back, 40, 50 years that he used while he was in the forestry service. So for me personally, I grew up aware of the brand and I knew of Pendleton, more actually on the apparel and the that side of the business than the blankets. But when I found out that we could potentially work with them. There was a strong sort of familial desire from my side to be like, I want to work with this company. My dad used to wear their stuff in the Forest Service back in the 60s and the 70s. And like that's just a cool thing for me to then come around full circle and work together with them to launch a blanket.
What's been some of the challenges along the way? In other words, when you started, there's plenty of people out there who make bedding, sheets, pillows, blankets, and you had a great idea. But a lot of people have great ideas, but it becomes so difficult to actually make it happen. I mean, take us through, can you, from some of the beginning steps of, okay, we have this idea, we can locate some places that can grow the cotton,
Mhm.
prepare it so it can be used in the products and the manufacturers. But how did you put that all together?
Yeah, so the challenges were like you mentioned, that supply chain setup, which was more complicated than how it used to be in America and how it is now if you buy overseas. If you buy overseas, you can approach a company and they say, "This is the fabric we make, and you can have it in these 20 different colors. Choose your pick." For us, it's like we really had to boil down into the supply chain and get to know the different links along the supply chain and build relationships with them and get them to know us and trust us. And that was challenging when you don't have a background in the textile industry, which we, of course, didn't have. And then, of course, the other challenge, I mean, there's been so many challenges. It's like,
Many
there's the
challenges.
COVID, which was challenging. There's just marketing in general, which is always challenging. Um,
I mean, there's literal mill closures.
mhm.
When we've traveled across the country to visit our manufacturing partners,
Mhm.
I mean, it's very sad. You see, I mean, block after block, especially in the South, of shuttered factories, shuttered mills.
Mhm.
A shell of what the American manufacturing landscape used to look like.
Mhm.
You know, up until the 80s, right before everything left. And as Jimmy said, it was a real challenge piecing together the supply chain. Once we were able to get that and feel like we could actually get going, the Kickstarter was our choice to basically do a litmus test to see if people were actually interested in high quality premium bed sheets made in the United States, because no one had done this. And so we launched it hoping that people would be interested, but you never know. And you have to be willing as an entrepreneur to really just take a risk. If it's a product and a mission and ideology you really believe in and you feel that other people it'll resonate with them and it'll be something that they might enjoy and benefit from, you have to just take that leap and jump off the cliff to do it. And so we did with the Kickstarter, and we were very thankful that we doubled our funding goal. We had, I think, nearly 300 backers, and at that point we're like, okay, this is a viable business. Like, people want to see high quality goods made in the United States, and we're going to do our darndest to make this a go. And we ended up being very lucky in that, because we were the leader in this space and bring back American bedding manufacturing, we were able to get a lot of amazing coverage, a lot of amazing press pieces. So
What do
it
you
really
do
helped.
at this point? In other words, it is high end. It's not for a lot of people who can't afford it or choose not to spend their money on it. Um, do you reach sort of a limit as to how many people, like the numbers of customers that will buy in? In other words, how do you expand when you have a lot of customers who just financially don't want to spend, that kind of money for these products?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, that is a challenge, right? Because made in America products are more expensive than made overseas products. We like to say that we offer a higher quality product that will last longer and work better for you. So the lifetime value of the product is actually much better, and you get more than what you pay for with us compared to products that are made overseas that will not last as long. So we
Actually, our
do try
goal.
and educate yeah, we do
Here's
try and
our
educate the
Sorry, guys.
Oh,
We'll just
good.
we
go.
do
Okay,
try and
good.
educate the
More show
customers
and tell.
about
Thank
that.
you.
And then there's also some product innovation, So this product is a lot different from your typical pillow that you buy at online or at Costco or something, in that it's got a gusset on one side where with a zipper, so you can open it up and you can remove the fill from inside of it or add fill in and customize it to exactly the loft that you like for your head. So, if one person likes it to be nice and flat, they can take out the fill. If somebody likes it nice and plump, they can put more fill in. And the benefit of that is like everybody hates their pillow and wants
I do.
something special that's unique to them. And this allows them to get that unique custom loft to their pillow, rather than trying to buy like 4 or 5 pillows and then being like, I don't like any of these. This lets you get
We've
it
all been
exactly how you
there.
want.
Or
Yeah,
whatever
so
it starts out is great, and then a couple months later it's flat as a pancake, or
yeah, absolutely.
not
Yep,
what you had originally purchased.
yep,
Yeah,
yep.
and I will say, as you mentioned, the value of what you get, right?
Mhm.
If you spend X number of dollars getting something from an online retailer or a big box store, that will probably most likely start deteriorating,
Mhm.
within months or a year or so. But our products are made so well, they're high quality, and they'll last a lot longer than something you might just kind of order
Yeah,
elsewhere.
yeah,
What's been
and
some
it's
of the challenges, in other words, in the business? In other words, initially making it, go, and then you mentioned COVID, obviously, but a lot of people were nesting at home, so that was good. Um, what about it at this point? If you look back, are there a couple of moments where you're like, we might not be able to make this work?
yeah. I mean, COVID definitely was one of those inflection points for us because on one hand there was high demand for our products because like you just said everybody was nested at home, but the supply chain was severely disrupted, and overseas it was, but even domestically it was as well. And we weren't able to get enough product into the hands of customers at that time, as well as the inflation that happened during that time and the increasing cost to us, which we didn't want to raise prices basically. And that was a particularly challenging time for us. Even though our sales were growing, we were having more issues on the supply chain front, and we were slow to raise prices, which made it challenging for us, because we just didn't really want to. We wanted to keep it as affordable as possible,
That's our goal today too.
Yeah,
So,
and that's still our goal. We don't want to make the nicest bedding that only, the billionaires can afford. We want to try and make it as fairly priced as possible, um, and price it fairly for the customers and for us and our manufacturers as well.
What do you have for advice for folks who want to be entrepreneurs, have some products? And again, going back to the fact that this is not a unique product in the sense of it's pillows, it's sheets.
Mhm.
These are products that are out there right now. Um, but it's sort of the reinventing the wheel concept where you said, we are going to do this. And I'm sure there were a lot of people who said, well, good luck with that. But here you are 10 years later. What's your advice to folks who are trying to make a go of it, especially if they're trying to do it, let's say, on the side where they don't have that kind of cash from a Kickstarter or something like that?
I will say, first and foremost, you really want to have a very clear vision of what you want to offer to your customers. You want to have a very clear concept. You want to have a specific product that you do not see out in the marketplace anywhere. You also as I said before, as an entrepreneur, you really do have to have that inner fire, I would say, and that willingness to take a risk and be bold and to not be afraid of failure. And to not be afraid of the setbacks. We've had the highest of highs, lowest of lows, and everything in between. And it is a peaks and valleys lifestyle. As small business owners and happen to be married as well, it's a very unique journey for us being a married couple. Others go into it either as a solopreneur or with a partner who they are not, married to. And it's certainly a lifestyle choice. As we used to joke when we started the business, you can work any 80 hours a week you want. But you are going to be working that. So you just can't be afraid of putting in the work and asking your friends, your family, your community to rally behind you and support you and ask them for feedback, ask them for help, get input from them. We had many friends and family try our products when we first created our sheets, asking them to test them out for months before we could even get to a point where they were on the market. And I think having your little village per se and having your support group of people who will just build you up, hold you up as you're going through these ups and downs. It is not easy. It's challenging even for us 10 years on. We find challenges all the time, and it's just trying to keep going and keep moving on. And for us, when we see something like this with our Northwest Roll Throw and we are like, wow, we get to do something. We've gotten a chance to do something with Pendleton Woolen Mills, a company that we just think is incredible and is really one of the most iconic American companies you can think of, where every week we got a chance to go to the mill and see every single part of the process of our blanket come to life and go to the sheep farm and become friends with, the weavers and the sewers and the techs. It makes it all worthwhile. So that is my advice is you just can't give up. You have to just believe in yourself and your product and believe that if you want to do this, like you will do it. It's again, going to be a challenge, but you can't shy away from that. You just have to embrace it and just say, you know what, it's going to be hard, but we're here for it.
Steph and Jimmy McDonald from Authenticity50 in Vancouver. Thank you for joining us on KOIN Conversations. It's great. I could keep you for a lot longer. We'll have to revisit down the road for sure. Good luck with things.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you for having us today. It was such a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you. You bet. We appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.